All right, everybody, welcome back to the Total Disclosure Podcast, where we peel back the layers of secrecy and shine a light on the truths that shape our world. I'm your host, Ty, and today we're honored to have one of my favorite members of Congress and a true champion in the fight for transparency, Representative Eric Burlison from Missouri's 7th District. Rep. Burlison has been at the forefront of the UFO, UAP discussion and investigation in Congress, working tirelessly alongside colleagues like Rep. Anna Paulina Luna and Representative Tim Burchett to demand answers from not only the government, but from private contractors and the deep state apparatus that's kept these secrets buried for decades. From whistleblower protections to subpoena powers and beyond, he's pushing for disclosure that can redefine humanity's place in the universe. In this episode, we're going to be tackling everything from advanced technologies hidden in plain sight to potential interventions by non-human intelligence, and even darker connections, like to figures like Jeffrey Epstein. With that being said, I'd like to welcome my friend, Eric Burlison. Rep. Burlison. Rep. Burlison, thank you for joining me. This is your third appearance on Total Disclosure, not including the recent meeting that I was unable to attend with Robert Salas, but you met with him, and I was a little under the weather. I couldn't make the hearing, even though I was invited by you guys, and it was literally killed me not to be there. But at the second hearing with witnesses, the one that Elizondo testified at, I had brought Salas in to meet with Mace, and that had gone over so well that, you know, when you and I kind of got in touch, I wanted to do the same thing, because the nuclear witnesses are something that's very close to me, and it's a topic that I'm really passionate about. I kind of just starting off the show, how did that meeting go, and how did it open your eyes to certain things? How was it to be briefed by Captain Robert Salas of the Malmstrom case?
Yeah, Mr. Salas is an amazing human being. He's, you know, and he's very bold. You know, he's put his reputation on the line. He's a patriot. He's served our country, and he's got a remarkable story. So. And he certainly was somebody that, you know, he wasn't like a low-level individual. He was pretty high up in his rank whenever the event happened, and to hear his story firsthand and to meet him firsthand was a real honor for me. So it was great, and thank you for helping to set that up.
Yeah. Oh my God. And that's one thing I wanted to kind of start with, because I kind of know my place in the community. I have these discussions. I facilitate stories, and I facilitate people being able to talk. You know, we had a phone call the other night, you and I said, you know, I don't care if you tell me you're a vampire. I want to hear more. Right? I probably won't hang out with you past a certain hour, but or hang out with you at all, but I'm willing to hear you out, right? And I think that's something that you and I both have in common. You know, we're not afraid of people in the community being like, why are you talking to that person? Why are you talking to that person?
Right.
So it's something that I've really respected about you, you know, pretty much since I met you, and since you started getting into this topic. How's it been? I mean, it's been about a year now, right? A little over a year. How's that been?
It's a pretty steep learning curve, especially getting to know all the players involved, getting to know all the podcasters and everybody that's passionate about this topic. There's a lot of people, and then also you have it's a very rich history involved, and so if you know, one could spend years just researching all of the events and the timelines of those events and locations and the details. And so there's quite a bit to you know, jump into, but I feel like I've jumped in with both feet and have an open mind about it. And so it's been quite a year and a half or more.
Yeah. And looking back on 2025, just to again kind of warm ourselves up into the conversation. How do you look at 2025 as a whole? Now that we're the first day out of 2025, we're in 2026 now. Looking back on 2025 for the UFO UAP topic, and broader, there's some broader things. Where do you think we're at? Do you think we're in a good place going forward? Do you think we need to change some things?
I think we're in a good place. Obviously, there's more that we can do, and we plan to do more. I would say the successes that we've had in 2025 are that you've got, a lot more awareness from the different branches of the government. So you've got more awareness from the intelligence community of this topic. You've got more involvement from the different from the FBI and others that are paying more attention to these reports, particularly because you've got it kind of overlaps quite a bit with drones. And so there's a lot of drone activity that's happening. And so it's kind of forcing the different agencies of the government to pay quite a bit more attention and to dedicate some sort of, surveillance equipment and research towards this topic. And I think that all of that is a good thing. And I think the hearings that we've had and the focus this last year has only elevated the conversation. I think having the film Age of Disclosure come out has only elevated the conversation more. Having some key players like Marco Rubio in that documentary is I think groundbreaking. And so I think that this year has moved the ball forward.
Absolutely. I couldn't, I'll kind of skip ahead. I had this a little bit, I think I had this as my second actual written question. You mentioned age of disclosure. In what many call the age of disclosure for UFOs and UAPs, what were some of your key takeaways from the film, from recent developments, and what do you believe the broader implications for society, technology, global security will be going forward?
I think one of the most remarkable conversations that I pulled from that was when Marco Rubio was discussing the fact that people assume that the president is read in on day one. And I think he might have been paraphrasing what others had told him. And we often get blamed for things. Like I'm in interviews all the time, and I'll be repeating what somebody has told me, and it gets somehow reported as what I'm saying is fact when I'm just relaying what I've been told. And
right.
But at the end of the day, to hear from Marco Rubio in that documentary that the president is in essence on a need to know basis was jaw dropping for me. I think
absolutely.
The other thing that was kind of a jaw dropper was when Clapper talked about, I believe it was Clapper, when he was talking about that there was UAP activity over Area 51, and that was something that was being investigated. So the fact that you've got some major players that were coming forward, willing to come forward and test and provide their narrative to that documentary, I think was really compelling. I think that Dan Farah did a fantastic job, and I think that he kind of kept it on track. Part of the journey of this process for me has, if you allow it, it'll take you down some rabbit holes that are pretty crazy. And I try to have an open mind, but sometimes you have these conversations and you think, how in the world did I end up in this conversation? But I think Dan Farah did a good job of just kind of keeping that grounded and doing a great job in making it something that's digestible for people that are not like you, who have been involved, like knee deep in this for quite some time.
Right.
I think it was a fairly digestible documentary.
Yeah. And the community, and I think we should probably talk a little bit. We talked on the phone about kind of keeping this in a positive, framework, but there's a huge problem in the community that it's always like, it's always a fight. It's always it's like this a Star Wars. I come from like the Hollywood world and you know, superhero movies, and there's no bigger infighting than in like the Star Wars community and in the Marvel and DC community, right? And then I came over
community.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I come over to the UFO side of things because of how toxic Hollywood is, and it's almost like I've seen this before, and I'm looking at it going, guys, you're doing exactly, if there is a deep state, which I think we can all probably agree there is. In fact, I mean, undoubtedly there is, right?
Yeah.
The people that are controlling the Epsteins, the Diddys, the Harvey Weinsteins, if that doesn't define the cabal, and if those aren't the same people that are suppressing the technology that, you know, we so desperately want, those are the people that are blackmailing presidents, right? Lords, princes, like that is who we should be focusing on, not fighting each other. This is what they want. And that goes for every day, like everyday life too. They'd rather hear us fighting about gender and race when 99.9% of the time I go into the city, there's no racism. People are holding the doors for each other. What we see on the news is just it's pitting us against each other.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And unfortunately, social media really exacerbates this because there's a lot of people that feel that it's they have this drive to get clicks and to get more people to follow them, and so they're willing to say outlandish things and be rude and sometimes vulgar or crude on social media. And it's just part of the game. I deal with it. I've been dealing with it ever since I got involved in politics. Unfortunately, it's just the way that human nature is.
Yeah, I guess I guess just in a community where we really do all, or at least I thought so, where we all have one goal and one commonality, and that's capital D disclosure. How we get there, I think, is a concerted effort, but Lou Elizondo is not going to be the one to run the ball across the goalpost. Neither is Dr. Greer. It's going to be all of us. And I think that's what gets lost.
Yeah. And I think that, like, I will say just, you know, observationally from my perspective, people are picking camps way early. I mean, there's not enough facts, in my opinion, to pick one camp over the other. That's based on the time that I've been looking into this. I mean, choosing Team Gryffindor versus Team whatever you call it, Hufflepuff or whatever, is unfortunately that's what people are doing quite often in this space. And what I would submit is that are you prepared to be wrong, right? And so I think that people, if you really truly are trying to find the truth, you need to be prepared to be wrong or about at least some things, right? And so rather than but I think that unfortunately what these factions are doing is really digging people into a narrative that may or may not be true. And so and I think that they're you know, the attacks on anyone else who brings out contrary information is not necessarily helpful for the discussion and for the cause.
It's not. It's what it is day to day. There's people that, like, they live on X or Twitter. I can't get used to that. But they live on the UFO Twitter, right? And it is what it is. I mean, you do you, boo. But it's like the boredom of not something happening every day. Well, they got to fill the time with something else. So that's where they start poking and prodding. That's my, you know, observation as a someone who's inside the community.
Oh, Tyler, I'm sure that someone's going to take this podcast and there'll be people
they'll clip it.
Some kind of storm. Find something that they can disagree about.
Absolutely.
So it's just inevitable.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like bringing back to my going full circle Marvel here. It's like Thanos. It's just inevitable, right? It just keep. All right, let's really get into some stuff here, man. Again, you know what? I'll say it. You're my favorite member of Congress. I'll say it for the record.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you're definitely my favorite member of Congress. I listen.
Wow.
Burchett,
hey, I'm not even my own favorite member.
Burchett, I love you. I really do. Paulina, Luna, I love you too. But I don't know. I just have a good connection with you, man. But Representative, you've been deeply involved in the UFO investigation on the Hill. Can you share your thoughts on how staffers can sometimes act as gatekeepers? Speaking of it, potentially filtering or blocking critical information before it actually reaches said member of Congress?
Yeah, I think that, look, I've spoken about this once before, but I'll kind of underscore this point, is that a lot of staffers, they enter the Hill and they start off with the entry level role of being maybe an intern somewhere, and then they move up into being in some form of correspondence, and they kind of work their way up to being, like maybe a legislative director for a member, whether in the House or in the Senate. But then they all really see the big kind of like golden parachute, or no, not gold, is eventually becoming a lobbyist. And there's no better path to doing that than going through being a committee staffer. So
Right.
Once they get on a committee, they're staffing that committee, and then eventually they'll get picked up by some firm and get some clients, and then they're able to afford their second, third home, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, that being said, I know for a fact, because I've had conversations with staffers who have said to me they would prefer that I go on XYZ committee because at the end of the day, it gives them more career opportunities after the fact. So that I've spoken with staffers who will jump to different members because of the committee that member might be on and what kind of doors that it might open. And so if that kind of paints a picture of where staff and what they're thinking is, now let's talk about the UAP topic. This topic does not benefit anyone in politics. There's no real win here. And so if you're a staffer, you really don't want to spend any time whatsoever on this topic. It's a distraction from getting you into, because look, there's not a lobby firm that's hiring on this topic. So any kind of effort or time that's spent on this is not necessarily in their motivation. If anybody that is motivated it's out of pure personal interest. And so I hire specifically staff that do have an interest in this because at least for right now, while I'm investigating this and part of this oversight committee, you try to hire staff that are going to be helpful, but I don't know that that's the case across the board. So,
Right.
That being said, the other aspect that we have to deal with is turf. So we often have, these committee staff who have got the purview of, whatever top. So the committee staff for the Intelligence Committee or the committee staff for the Armed Services Committee, whether in the House and the Senate. In some cases, you've got some turf that's being protected by the staff on appropriations. So all of that, sometimes that will come to play. And if you've got a topic that maybe they don't want you to be working on, that you'll see some opposition. Outside of this topic, for example, when it came to when we were doing the One Big Beautiful Bill, you definitely, it was a lot more difficult to pass because each committee staff was not going to give up their domain of a particular area. So as a result, you ended up having to parse up or cut up the bill into multiple pieces and then assign those to the different committees of where they've got their purview. And what that means is that every committee has to pass their section in order to make the entire bill work. That if that gives you an idea how difficult sometimes it is to get anything accomplished in Washington, D.C., a lot of it has to do with egos. A lot of it has to do with turf. And that's why it's so difficult sometimes to get anything done. And I've experienced that firsthand with trying to get the UAP Disclosure Act put onto the National Defense Authorization Act, or getting the bill, heard independently and getting it to the floor has all become difficult because there's multiple committees that have jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In your experience, how can we ensure, is it what you do? Is it by just hiring people that are interested in it? How can we ensure that the whistleblowers and the key intel make it directly to decision makers like yourself, like Luna, like Burchett, without interference? Is it by hiring interested folks and dedicated folks?
I think it's got to be under the direction of the member. So the elected official really is the only person that's going to put pressure on the staff to move something one way or another. So I think I would say the public should pay attention to where the gatekeepers might be, and be willing to pick up the phone and call those offices and make it clear that this is important for you, because this is a topic that's not important to. Sadly, it's not important to politicians or their staff. So the only way that it's going to become important is if people call and write their congressman or their senator to make it important.
Absolutely. Kind of shifting gears here, because and that makes total sense. It's got to be on the member. And hey, if any member out there needs help or an advisor, I'm willing to do it. I got some media training and a journalistic background. Just, let's go.
I don't think you want to live in DC.
No, I don't. But it would be close to the action. And there's something that is a little nice about that. If anywhere, but I don't know. I've been wanting to, someone just sent in a chat about it, and I was going to ask you guys this anyway. So Interstellar UAP said, do Congress and the intelligence community take Chris Bledsoe's The Lady prophecies seriously? And what role do you think this could play in UFO disclosure? I want to just hold that right there, because I did have a question that I wrote about that. And so I don't know if you know, but respected individuals like Chris Bledsoe, in his book, UFO of God, predicted that when the star of Regulus aligns with the gaze of the Sphinx, humanity will enter a new stage of consciousness. Others in the community discuss potential world-changing events tied to non-human intelligences. Have you heard this? And what is your take on these types of dated predictions? And, do they align with anything that you've heard in Congress? A lot of people talk about 2027. This is specifically Easter 2026. And when they did after he was told by this entity, the lady, that date was going like that, she never gave a date. She said when the star of Regulus is in the gaze of the Sphinx. So astronomically, they did that. They did it out. And the star of Regulus is a red star, and it's bright red. So she said the red star of Regulus, when it aligns with the gaze of the Sphinx, humanity will enter a new phase of consciousness. So that happens to be Easter 2026, which is Easter's like it's really critical to his story. He has a very religious framework on this, and he's been visited by NASA, the CIA, Jim Semivan in the CIA, NASA, Travis Taylor, people that have very, very interesting backgrounds have been paying attention to this guy. Have you talked to him?
I've met Chris Bledsoe. I've not heard this prediction from him directly. I haven't. This is the first I'm hearing about it. I probably need to take some time and pick up his book. But I've got a lot of things I'm working on. Surprising, this occupies maybe 2% of my workload. I hate to say that, but like we've got healthcare issues in America. We've got all kinds of other things that are going
Fraud
on.
in Minnesota.
Yeah,
Sorry.
fraud in Minnesota.
Sorry.
So the Oversight Committee will spend an enormous amount of time investigating this latest round of fraud efforts. I'm on the DOJ committee. We spent a lot of time on that. But yeah, Chris, he's a really, really kind and gentle person. Really great to be around, and I enjoy him. He's a nice person.
He's so nice.
I went to dinner with him. I'm trying to remember if it was after the hearings or before one of the hearings. Went to dinner with him and some other people that are kind of, in a way, that they're kind of Chris Bledsoe groupies. And I'm saying that in the most, like, you know, they're good people too, but they're all friends together. So I didn't really know them very well, but they wanted to have a conversation. So I just happened to have the evening open, and we went to dinner, and I didn't know who Chris was. I learned about his, you know, his story and what he claimed to me that he was able to actually communicate with, and that he had like the ability to communicate and call in UAPs. And so I asked him, so where does this happen? In the desert, over the water? You know, where can this happen? Over a city? And he said, anywhere. And I said, anywhere, any time of the day, at night, when? And he said, you know, pretty much anytime. It's easier to see it at night. And I said, what about right now? What about right here, right now? And I said that because I have been, you know, this last year and a half or more of being involved in this topic, it gets pretty frustrating to hear lots of stories, to hear people's firsthand accounts, and yet not have no receipts, no proof, nothing. And so I asked him if he would be willing to demonstrate that. We went on the Capitol Mall. After a few hours, I gave him a few hours and nothing happened. But then I was told that a few weeks later they went to the exact same location, and I think they recorded it. It was on Ross Coulthard's show. They actually released some videos that they had taken from their cell phones of some objects that they reportedly, according to them, that they called in with Chris. But I was not there, so I can't confirm that was the case. All I can tell you is that I gave him a chance, went out with him, and nothing happened. And so that's all I know.
If I'm being fair, I was at Contact in the Desert, and Bledsoe was there. I actually introduced him at Contact in the Desert to the stage. I had the pleasure of introducing him, and he's someone that his story does resonate with me a little bit. But that aside, right? You know, because he was at Contact in the Desert. They did a sky watch, and it's in Palm Springs. There's a lot of things moving in the sky, whether it's satellites. I think it's a little bit. When they do it like that, what Chris says is, if there's anyone that's a non-believer in the group, it will affect the. Yeah. So, you know, again,
well, I guess I'm the non-believer. That would be me then. I was the non-believer, but I was willing to see and was willing. But if that's the case, then I guess I gave some bad juju for that moment.
Did you tainted the experiment?
I guess so. Maybe it was me.
No, Eric, it's not you. It's not you. Because at Contact in the Desert, and then they do them on the beach a lot. But there are people. So I listen. Maybe take this for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go. I would say, maybe I can work this out. Actually, maybe you and I could go to Chris's home. He's invited me to his home. People from NASA have gone there. like I said, the CIA have gone there, and they even the show, the Skinwalker Ranch show, the spinoff one, that's a little bit more scientific in my opinion. The guy Bustamante and the other guy, they did this thing where they put like EEG on him, and he went into meditation, and he went into a meditative state that is only achieved by like monks and like really practiced meditators, and he did it like that. At least maybe that's how the editing showed it, but he did it really quickly. And then when his brain went into the alpha, like, or whatever it's called, that the theta, I think it's the theta, orbs started coming through the trees, and they did catch this on film. So these big spectacle parties that they do where they charge people to go out, again, that's where it gets a little tricky for me. Greer's done that kind of stuff. It seems more about something else. I'm not saying that about Chris. I'm not saying that about anyone, but I will say that seems more gimmicky. But the stuff that's like really interesting, I think, is a very more localized thing. And he's also said things like what I find to be a little bit even more interesting is the fact that he also mentioned that a divine revelation would happen where non-human intelligence might intervene during conflicts like those between Israel and Iran. He literally said, when Israel and Iran start trading missiles, that this non-human intelligence, angelic, alien, whatever you want to call it, was going to intervene and then make themselves known. And that's going to happen, I think he said in the next year or two as well. And that it's heating up right now. Although that's like that, I don't know. What do you think of these things?
I don't really pay much attention to prophecy. I mean, if it comes true, that's really fascinating, but I don't really, and maybe this just comes from being a Christian and having so many people get it wrong about, the date and the time that when Christ is going to return. Usually that date comes and goes and nothing happens. So I just don't really give a lot of credence to it. But
fair enough.
But if he hits the nail on the head and gets it, right, then good for him.
Yeah, I guess it's something. I just think for my own perspective, I always tell people, like, if you have a date, because Chris looks at it like he's a very religious framework, like that Christian framework. If I'm not mistaken, it's the lady, the lady in white, right? She's not a non-human intelligence, so to say, is what he thinks. She's like Hathor, or like I don't know. It's kind of crazy when you actually get into it. But I just say dates, you're better off not saying it, because then, God forbid you are a good faith person and you want to contribute to the community, and then you put a date out there and something doesn't happen, then you lose all your credibility. Yeah. Like all of it with one day. So moving on from the Bledsoe stuff. So whistleblower David Grusch, and I know we have a couple things in the chat to get to as well. The Lakatsky thing is something I really want to look at. But whistleblower David Grusch has been working with your office in 2025. Can you give us an update on that collaboration? Have there been, secure compartmented information facility briefings? Do you have details on those names, dates, lists of hostile versus non-hostile witnesses yet?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's been quite a year. David has been extremely helpful, particularly in kind of navigating the intelligence community. He helped us directly write the interrogative letters that we ultimately ended up sending just before we had the hearing this last year. And he's helping us write some more to different other agencies and private companies. So he's been helpful in that regard, also helpful in kind of evaluating witnesses and providing insight, because he's interviewed most of these people, in his official capacity when he was employed with the federal government. So
Absolutely.
he was able to give that kind of insight. Also about, you know, some of the players, even that have not been whistleblowers yet. He has brought to us that he's working on a potential new witness that seems to have a tremendous amount of potential. And so I'm excited about that. But it could fall through at any point. So I don't want to get people's hopes too high, but we do have more witnesses and potential whistleblowers to come forward. He's introduced me to some people and set up some meetings and conversations with people that were not willing to go public. And those have been pretty interesting conversations. Again, I'll say nothing that has produced receipts, but at least it's kind of helping kind of flesh out what some different perspectives as well. So David also was helping our staff with the UAP Disclosure Act language. I also have Danny Sheehan that's working on that. So Danny is kind of working to evaluate, you know, since we didn't get it put into the bill, we've got some time to kind of reevaluate that language that was originally written by Grusch in cooperation with some others. And I think that language was what Chuck Schumer ultimately kind of settled on. But we might be able to tweak that language to be a little bit more grounded in a way in which we're not allowing gatekeepers to stop information. Because I think that one of the criticisms of the Disclosure Act language is that if a president really wants to stop something from happening, that they could appoint a board of people that are committed to not releasing any information. Now you've got Senate confirmations, and I think that the Senate would kind of have some say in that. But at the end of the day, we want to have as much authority in the hands of Congress as possible, because we know the executive branch has a history of not being fully transparent. So Grusch has been really helpful in a lot of ways to our staff, and I'm glad that we had him on. He still sometimes speaks a language that I don't understand, and what I mean is that there's so many acronyms and different departments and agencies and even like forms and software that is part of the vernacular of people in the intelligence community, but I'm just now getting used to.
Interesting. And okay, so Rep Luna spoke about not even maybe 2 days ago, Rep Luna spoke about some sort of threat or event that took place before a SCIF meeting.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, could you follow up on that? I'm very interested, obviously. Right.
So you never know what was going on, but we had a remote briefing where Grusch was at a different location, but in a SCIF, and there's a technology that allows us to do basically what we're doing right now, like a type of Zoom type
SCIF to SCIF communication.
That's right. Yeah. And it's very, I don't know, but it's highly encrypted, highly secure. And I'm sure that the federal government has enough confidence that it is secure. So, and you have to use very particular devices. You got to be in a location that is really secure as well. And so because for convenience, Grusch went to this one location, and on his way there, he had I think it was a road rage incident, but someone basically flashed a gun at him when driving on his way to the SCIF. But you know, it could be anything. I once had, and a lot of times you kind of see things, you see shadows where they aren't really shadows. So it could have been, I kind of chalk it up to that it was just a road rage incident because, yeah.
What you're saying is it could be, it had nothing to do with Grusch himself, like being a UFO whistleblower, but it was more like road rage, regular road rage. And someone was just, because I've had that. I haven't had a gun pulled on me like that or flashed to me like that, but I've had people follow me, and I don't go on the air and and I'm like, oh yeah, I got followed by the F. No, I accidentally cut him, or what he thought cut off. So you're saying there's no definitive evidence to suggest that was related, but that could also be exactly what they want.
Right. Yeah, that could be. I'll give you and this has happened to me before. So years ago, when I was a Missouri state representative, I sponsored a bill that's called Right to Work. And right now, anyone who's one of your viewers or listeners is now immediately not going to like me. And that's, but who is union? So this is a bill that that states sponsor that is part of the Taft-Hartley Act. It lets individual members choose whether they wish to join a union or not join a union. It's up to them. And at the end of the day, I'll move on, but it is a very controversial bill, and it got me a lot of death threats. And I mean a lot of death threats. And I to the point where they would call my wife. They would find out who my wife was. They would call her and tell her that your husband isn't going to live through Christmas, things like that. And in the middle of that time period, I was driving down I-44 headed home at night from Jefferson City. And I had a pickup truck go flying past me, probably more than 90 miles an hour. Then they hit their brakes, came back up to me and did a pit maneuver on me and spun me into oncoming traffic going 70 miles an hour on I-44. The truck had Union bumper stickers on it. And so as a result, as you can imagine, it makes you think, oh my God, they really did try to kill me, or someone from the unions really tried to kill me. But it turns out it was just an individual who was high, who had taken some either meth or fentanyl, and they not only hit me, but they hit about 4 other vehicles as they were like ping-ponging down the highway.
Sounds more like meth to me.
Right. Could have been.
No, you'd probably go to sleep.
Yeah. but at the end of it, that's like, to me, that's when you're in the heat of things and you've got all these threats happening and there's a lot of intensity and there's a lot of scrutiny around things, it can cause you to kind of jump to conclusions that may not be necessarily true.
Yeah, become paranoid.
Yeah.
Getting a death threat, it's something very spooky, and not a lot of people have had it happen. I would say a small number of people relative to the population size have gotten a death threat. And even if it's something like, on the internet, it's kind of like a rite of passage. If you get a death threat, like if you're a public person and you get a death threat, it's like a rite of passage, ironically. And it's most likely meaningless, but something does change and I couldn't imagine being someone like you or David Grusch or someone who's living with this kind of burden. Because then everything, if you're not able to balance that paranoia out, you could go down, you could spiral pretty easily. If you weren't sound of mind, of course, like you guys are. So that's terrifying, but I'm glad to hear that nothing actually happened. I'm glad to hear that. So is Grusch going to be staying on in 2026?
I don't know how long in 2026, but we've got some more activity here in the next few months, and so as long as Grusch is willing to stay on and provide value, we'll be keeping him at least on my staff.
You guys on Weaponized, you guys, and when I say you guys, I mean, what I call the trio, you Burlison, not you, well, you Burlison, and then Rep Luna and Rep Burchett. You guys went on Weaponized, and I have 2 things, but the first thing was you guys talked about how there's no current plans to have any future hearings right now because you just don't think that it would actually move the needle. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I would say that the witnesses or the potential people that we would bring forward at this point, I don't know that they would move the needle. And so that's why I think we're kind of there's a lot of conversations that we can have behind the scenes to just kind of continue to fact find and gather information. But I don't know that we should go about the effort of doing like a massive public hearing again, that I don't know that we would accomplish moving, as was said before, moving the needle. What I do, but we're going to be looking for different witnesses. We're also looking to get access to some files and some documents that have been very helpful from one of the whistleblowers that has not been in a public hearing, which is Matt Brown.
Hey.
Yeah, Matt Brown, great guy.
Immaculate Constellation. For anyone who doesn't know, do you mind explaining who Matt Brown is?
Yeah, so he was someone who was working in the intelligence community, had access to some files, and was able to see some things that see a document called Immaculate Constellation. We had a reporter, Michael Schellenberger, come forward in the hearing that Nancy Mace chaired.
Yeah, I was there for that one.
And he was essentially providing information that he had gleaned from his conversations with Matthew Brown. Mm-hmm. And now Matthew has come forward publicly. He's shown his face, and I think he did it on weaponized.
Yes, he did.
And so now we can talk about it. But he's been extremely helpful in providing some detailed information that we otherwise would not be able to track down. So I appreciate his effort, and really everybody who's been brave enough to come forward. Yeah.
And that brings me to this question. So you have, this is from Christians ironically, Christians for UAP Transparency. Eric has said that they don't want Lakatsky to testify because it wouldn't be anything new. Grusch didn't say anything new either. Wouldn't you want his testimony to be on the record and blow up the headlines? Now, I will also caveat that by saying that Lakatsky has said on record that he will essentially lie under oath. Maybe I'm misquoting that. I hope I'm not, but I'm almost certain that he said that he would keep he would have to lie under oath. He wouldn't be able to tell the full story, or he would just do the whole we have to talk about that in a skiff thing. So wouldn't he be someone you wanted to bring in?
I'm totally open to talking to him or anybody, really, if there's something that we can glean from that conversation, and if he's willing to come forward and we can provide some new information in a public setting, that's fantastic. I think the reason that we haven't really spent a lot of time and focus in his direction is that he has publicly said that he won't tell us anything that isn't already in his books.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And so I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a frustration. We did kind of reach out to him through Jeremy Corbell to see if he was willing to come forward. And I'm not sure where the kind of fallout happened, but at the end of the day, it didn't matriculate to an actual, interview and so look, I'm open to talking to him, and if he's got more information to share, maybe if he feels more comfortable doing it in a secure setting, because a lot of them are looking for that before they can, or at least you hear this a lot in the testimony they'll give in a public setting. They'll say, I cannot say that outside of a secure setting.
And people are people don't want to hear that in a hearing again.
No, I'm sick of it myself. Because then it's hard to actually get him in a secure setting, because I got to go through all the hoops of getting the different committees of purview to that. So if that person signed an NDAA with the Pentagon, then you got to get House Armed Services and maybe the Intel Committee to sign off on letting that person provide a briefing to us on the topic. So
That's
it
right.
becomes a big hassle sometimes to get people into a secure setting.
That was right. That was right. Christian Thompson said that it was Admiral Wilson that said he would lie under oath, and that was from the Wilson Davis memo, which you are familiar with, right?
Yeah.
When you guys had, so actually another thing, you guys have had Dr. Eric Davis in some sort of, not a congressional hearing, but some sort of congressional, I don't know what you would have called that, but it was
It's like a forum or something, I would say.
Yeah. And he was talking about different types of alien civilizations. Why did no one ask him about the notes?
About the notes?
About the memo that he's most famous for.
Oh,
Admiral Wilson, like Davis, like I was like, why didn't anyone take that chance?
Maybe we didn't have that conversation there, but we have had that conversation with him in a separate meeting in a secure location, because we have had a meeting with Eric Davis in a skiff.
Interesting. Well, he said that if he was able to get a presidential pardon, not a presidential pardon, but like a whatever it is when they commute you of your NDAs, like presidential whatever, like a blanket pardon to get him out of those NDAs, that he would tell you guys everything. Is that something? Obviously, the Republicans need to kind of win the midterm for such things to be possible. But could you see a situation where Trump actually does, like, if he wants to leave a legacy, it seems kind of a no-brainer that this is the topic to do it with.
I mean, it's, to you, it is. I don't know that to Trump, this is a topic that is top of mind for him. I think it has to become top of mind before he takes action. And I think that I don't speak for the president. I'm just kind of relaying what I'm getting a sense of from people that are immediately around him. That it's not exactly a top priority. And there's a sense that this may distract from other objectives that he has, whether it's domestic policy or foreign policy. And so I think that if given the opportunity, and if he knew that that the public was extremely interested in it, I think that Trump has no problem with disclosing. Or what I've requested specifically is that he do an executive order that's similar to the one that he did with the JFK files, because we've actually gotten some pretty good new information on that topic, because Trump did an executive order demanding those files be released. So I would like and I've requested that from the White House staff, but we'll see.
Interesting. So okay. That's and that's fair. That's fair. So we just have to, I think because on the campaign trail, whenever asked about it on like the podcasting side, I think this is the first election that featured podcasting as like a real means to speak to the masses, because the legacy media is just not the way it used to be. Maybe never was. Not sure. But,
right. I think it's going to take like a Joe Rogan or Sean Ryan or someone that when Trump was campaigning and I believe that Rogan brought it up.
He did.
But I think it's going to take that kind of level of inquiry to get Trump to respond. And I hope that Rogan.
Can you guys just show him Age of Disclosure? Just get him in a private theater.
He has the White House time to watch a movie. He has time to sit still for that long.
Yeah. We got to do like a congressional watch party of Age of Disclosure.
So Anna and I and Tim Burchett were invited by Dan Farah for a pre-screening, and we did see it before it was released.
Right.
And the New York Times covered that.
Wow. Yeah. So again, it's just like, I feel like Age of Disclosure was a good, I thought that because there was talk of a presidential advisory board or investigatory board after that film came out. Was there any truth to that, or was that just kind of speculative community stuff?
I'm not sure if they're looking to put together something else. I know that there is investigations that are occurring within the federal government.
Well, the FBI has a UAP thing now too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I can't really speak to that, and I couldn't really say that it's a UAP group. I think we would all be ignorant to believe that they're not called in to investigate sightings, and that some of which might end up becoming or referred to as a UAP. But the FBI's their interest is making sure that the airspace in the United States is secure, and whether that's drone incursion or other, that it's something that they're tasked to investigate.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So I wanted to ask something. It's a bit heavy. The Epstein files have revealed a web of influence across government, left and right, seemingly covering up something much larger and darker. Why do you think that Epstein was so interested in figures like Eric Weinstein? Why was he so interested in free energy and cracking advanced technologies?
It could be just a private interest. Look, I mean, clearly the guy was a pervert and he had a very dark nature to him. What I think that people tend to not go into a social setting with people that they don't know or that they barely know and just announce to the world what their proclivities are if they've got some kind of dark, right? I mean, that just is obvious. And one of I'll say politically, like when you get to the point where I'm at, where you've encountered thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people. One of them is many of them are criminals. And you can't vet everybody that you talk to. That being said, a lot of them, I think that there is a weird instinct to some people that know that they're going down, that they're doing something criminally wrong. There's a weird instinct that some of them have where they want to get close to a politician or to someone of influence, because if they know they're going down, then they want to kind of they want to create those relationships for what might happen. So naturally, or if you know you're going down, then you try to create an image of something that's to kind of
look at me, I'm working with the government, I'm a member of society that's not a total loser.
Right. Look at me. I'm donating money to all these to these charities and to the I'm investing in science and discovery and all that stuff. I think that while it may not be something that they put together as a formalized plan, I think that that's part of the motivation behind some of the efforts. And it could be that he was following some of his other interests. I mean, he clearly was a guy that was interested in being around some pretty heavy thinkers and scientists and quantum physicists. And I wish that I was able to spend time with some quantum physicists. That's a topic that I can never get enough of. I think it's pretty awesome. But
all right. And hear me out on this. Hear me out. So again, I said this earlier. Is it not obvious in the sense that the people that are controlling the Epsteins, right? The Diddies, the Harvey Weinstein, that's film. For anyone who doesn't know who those people are, that's film, Hollywood, that's the music industry, and that's the financial world, right? And then we go on to look at religious sectors. We know it's there too. We don't have to, I live in Boston where it was uncovered with a certain church. So I don't have to get into super specifics here, but am I the only one that's like, hey, wait a second, guys. The people that are controlling those that are honeypotting and essentially blackmailing the most important and powerful public-facing people. 99 out of 100 people will tell you that the United States president is the most powerful person in the world, right? If you got a guy that's blackmailing him, the most powerful person, who do you think's controlling him? If that's not the deep state, if that's not the cabal, and that's not the same people that are suppressing this sort of technological advancement that have these, that Daniel Inouye, right? Hawaii, senator from Hawaii, was also part of the Gang of Eight, spoke about this shadow government that operates with its own army, its own fundraising mechanism, its own agenda. It operates above the law. And we've never heard of them. We don't know those people because they want it that way, right? Are we not dealing with the same thing? And I feel like people in the UFO world, they don't want to make the tie because it's dark. It is dark. But those same people, could that be the breakaway civilization kind of thing as well? Dr. Michael Masters has talked about it. This cabal, if they want to keep that technology secret, they want the rest of the world living on fossil fuels and taking planes that haven't been upgraded, our aviation, transportation, our grid. It's all very crude when we start looking at what they might have in some of these bunkers. So, I mean, have you thought about this?
I don't know how to answer that. That was kind of, there's a lot there to what you just asked.
But do you understand why I asked the question?
Let me try to.
There was actually there was no question there. My real question is, does it not make sense that all of it connects? That all of it seems to have the bubbles seem to overlap.
Yeah, I think I'm careful in this regard, that the older I get, the more I realize that it's dangerous to try to connect things that may not be connected. I think it's a natural tendency to try to connect things and to look for a commonality that's kind of creating that's connecting things. I'm not saying that they aren't connected. I'm just saying I don't know that. I don't know. I'm not jumping to that conclusion. I think that with Epstein, to go back to that, I think the part of the problem is you've got some major political donors and people of influence whose names, whether they were part of the perverted actions or not, or part of a cover up or not, they at least had enough interaction with Epstein that they don't want their names and their reputations harmed. And they're absolutely going to have influence over whether that information is released. They're going to make phone calls, and they're going to try to protect their reputation. So I think that that's something that's at play. Now, I think separately, the conversation about if there's some kind of technology that our military contractors have access to, and if there's people that are kind of gatekeeping that information, I think I think it's a separate topic. But I have spoken with people that claim that there is a breakaway civilization, that there is kind of this dark, very dark agency within the government. I don't believe that to be the case. Again, I'm open. If somebody wants to bring the receipts, then let's talk about it. But to me, it's really highly improbable that you've got so many people working on something like this, of this scale, without having some evidence come forward.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I suppose fair enough, but you know, so there was a question that was asked that I was supposed to get to, and I forgot. So, I mean, I'm going to get to this in a moment. Here, Gene Sticko asked a question. This is something that in Age of Disclosure was also brought up too, though. I don't know if you remember it, but Rubio, something that Rubio said that in that film that I really like, that really stuck with me, was that you'll have Senator A, right?
Mhm.
And Senator A will work with a private contractor, materials will get transferred, and then, you know, the private contractor is, you know, they go to work on it. And then the next, you know, the next election cycle, that senator is, you know, whatever, is not there anymore, gets voted out, gets beaten in an election, or his term, you know, he steps down. Like, not likely to be the case, but anyway,
Mhm.
the second person that comes in, they have even less, probably half the knowledge that the first senator did about the original agreement, and then go down the line. So the private contractor just seems to have to wait out people in government because, you know, again, there's
Mhm.
those people are coming and going where the private contractor is not. So, you know, when Rubio said that, I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense too. So do you think that materials have been transferred and then, you know, contractors might be taking advantage of the democratic nature of our
Yeah.
situation?
I have no doubt that that happens across the board, whether it's this topic or other topics. And I have no doubt because with the Doge effort, that's what we were able to uncover, is that a lot of the things, the waste, fraud, and abuse that they were able to find has to do with the fact that you've got decisions that were made from previous administrations or previous elected officials who passed something. Maybe it was a government program, maybe it was purchasing a software system, and then they move on and forget about it. And meanwhile, we're still paying the licensing fees for software that has never been implemented. Just to give one
Right.
example, right? And so the problem is those contractors have no problem taking the check and continuing to operate, and in fact would prefer that no one remembers that what they're supposed to be doing. So I think that there's no doubt in my mind that that happens, and probably does happen within our military contracts as well.
It's so sad too, because
No,
it
as a
seems,
taxpayer, it's really awful. I mean, when you saw how much waste that was uncovered, I'm disappointed that we weren't able to actually um, codify more of the Doge cuts. And look, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. There was a time when Bill Clinton and Al Gore put together an effort that is essentially Doge of its time in the 90s.
yeah.
And they had some really bold things that they were suggesting, things like consolidating the ATF into the FBI in order to save money and overlapping resources and scope. I mean, there was a ton of suggestions that they came up with because they were trying to make government more efficient.
Absolutely.
And sadly, I think that we become so partisan and political that even the most obvious things that we should all have a 99% agreement on end up becoming divisive. And so the Doge effort, sadly, was one of those, and hopefully we can move on. But that was, I think, one of the things that they fully uncovered was that a lot of these programs that end up becoming almost eternal. I mean, Ronald Reagan famously said the closest thing to eternal life that we'll ever see on this planet is a government program. So sadly, politicians come and go, but the government programs tends to stay. And you imagine how big the government is today. There's not a single one person that can come through and know where everything is going. And so because of that, it's just things get lost in the weeds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, my friend. So Gene does ask here, and Gene was a part. Gene was I know Gene. He's a good guy. He was a part of just the intelligence community. He's also a veteran. He asked, how has Department of Energy and Pentagon compartmentalization hindered oversight of U.S. and Russian, including the Soviet era reverse engineering programs, including the late 90s technology transfers?
So I think that the DOE is an agency that is probably not been looked at very much, and I think that that's an area that we really need to be focusing on at this point. So there doesn't appear to be a whole lot of oversight over the Department of Energy and the secure programs within the DOE, and I think that Tulsi's team is trying to change that. They're trying to get at least some more oversight from the Office of Inspector General into the Department of Energy, and so hopefully there's some success that comes out of that.
Progress, yeah. Are you guys doing anything different in 2026? How are you guys going to shake up, this hurdle that the UAP Disclosure Act has enacted? Going forward, I know we talked about it a little bit, but how can we get this passed? What are the steps that are going to need to be taken by members of Congress like yourself and by, ordinary citizens?
Yeah, I think that there was some progress made in these last few months and weeks leading up to the passage of the National Defense Authorization Act, because we had some success a year ago in the Senate getting it added on temporarily, but it really was never fully considered by the House or really the full Senate as well. So, but now I will say my team, when we were going into the coming out of the shutdown, we were calling, or actually it was right before when we were coming out of the shutdown that first week, and then we were getting ready to, we passed the appropriation bill to fund us to the end of January. And then we took our scheduled week back home at the week of the Thanksgiving period.
Oh yeah.
During that week, I was on the phone with nearly every person that would take a phone call. And I mean, like the ranking member, the chairman of these committees, and my team was working with their staffs. And I think we made a lot of progress because we got a lot of people that were not aware of this bill, just saw it as this huge, because the amendment it's a large amendment, and it's something a lot of these committee staff are not familiar with. And so we got a lot of familiarity established in this last Thanksgiving period. So, but I think the problem is that we really didn't have our finger on who was the obstacle. Now I think we've got some time, and this is a topic that over the next year, hopefully we can get some approval early on to have this language added. Hopefully in the early stages of the progression of the bill. I would love to have it added in committee before it even goes to the House floor, so that we can really lay the groundwork and get and have a good chance of passing it.
Awesome. That makes me it makes me really happy. I think something that I think I mean, do you think you'll have to concede any language like eminent domain or anything that gives this act teeth?
I hope not. So,
I hope not.
Yeah, but that does not appear to be right now a red flag for others, and I'm hoping to not make it a red flag.
Okay, and then of course,
at least there's very few people that have brought that up.
Okay, well, yeah, I think that's fair. The people that I'd see having the most problem with it are probably the ones that we should be looking at. So,
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, there are guys like Jacques Vallée who have raised concerns about it, And that's because he has collected material. So he said, you know, what does that mean for him as a private citizen with these materials? You know, he works with Dr. Gary Nolan, and has he's turned over a lot of these materials to Gary Nolan, and
I would say an easy way to thread that is to say, if the federal government gave you material to investigate, and now we no longer have access to that, it's time to give it back. I think that's a simple way of putting it.
I like that. I really do. In the past, I think even in past hearings, you've referenced claims of Lockheed Martin transferring non-human technology to government programs like OSAP. Have you received any new briefings from aerospace companies on this? Well, I can't even read my writing here. What is the UAP caucus planning to send to compel answers from firms like Lockheed or BAE Systems, or include private contractor here?
Well, we began with the Aerospace Corporation, and then we'll continue to send interrogatory letters to other agencies, to other contractors as well. So that's what I spoke to earlier, that some of the next steps that Grusch is working on.
So okay, so if in these letters, it would just kind of state that, listen, if you've been given something by the government.
Well, the letters, kind of the way that we're setting it up is that we begin by saying we want a briefing. We want the Oversight Committee would like to have a formal briefing in a SCIF, and we're requesting that briefing, and we're specific, and then it's accompanied with the details of what the topic is and what we would anticipate them, bringing forward into that meeting. And then we can follow up with more direct letters after that. But that's there's a strategy that the committee staff have that that Grusch is working through in order to get some of these answers, and that's kind of the process.
Interesting. And I'm very interested to see how some of these companies react to that. I think as long as you guys remain committed, and I see a bright future in that regard. I don't know why, but I could be wrong. It's the optimism in me. What can I say? Listen, Eric Hecker is someone that I've spoken to on the show here. He's left a couple of comments that he wanted me to ask you about. He said that he briefed your team, or made efforts to brief your team, and just hasn't heard back. So he worked for Raytheon at the Antarctic region, the station, and he is claiming that he had found evidence, or has evidence, knows things, that there is a weapon. There's a weapon in Antarctica, and it is posing as a neutrino detector. And so have you spoken to him? I mean, we know there are things like directed energy weapons. We know that there are these systems that have been developed and might be private. They'll breach national security. I just want to know, have you looked at that claim? Because if we are looking for contractors to tell us what they know, I mean, he did work for Raytheon. He was at the weekend. He's shown all that. I mean, so is there any future plans to look at this?
So the task force is not focused on things that are not. I mean, task force is focused on the JFK assassination and disclosure of that, and the RFK, the MLK assassination, the Epstein list, and as well as the UAP topic. This is kind of tangential, but not really part of the UAP topic, which is why it's an intriguing story. But at this point, it's a story, and so I was willing to, and I did speak with Mr. Heckler. Hecker, that's right.
No,
with Eric Hecker. I spoke with him. That's probably a Freudian slip. I spoke with him for quite some time. We had a long conversation with my staff over the phone, and it's a remarkable story. I kind of fall into the bucket at this point. I'll listen to your story, but I'm not going to believe you until you bring receipts to the conversation. And so that's kind of where that conversation has ended.
Okay.
I'm open if he wants to bring some form of evidence or proof. I think if I recall the conversation, he was challenging us to take a trip to the Antarctic and go busting in. And I'm not about to do that.
That's
I mean, that would be probably the biggest wild goose chase that I could pop. So I'd like to have some evidence before I continue investigating that.
Okay, yeah, I can't say that's not fair. I mean, yeah, I don't know if the people of Missouri would be like, hey, Burlison, what are you doing in the Arctic? What does that have to do with anything? But it is a place of very, very high. How do you want to say it? There's very interesting things that I think, I've heard about Antarctica and just the history of the continent. And
it'd be great to visit. It would be very hard to justify using government dollars to fly down there, and I'm certainly not going to go on a campaign fund.
Right.
So,
just more evidence.
There's going to have to be some kind of evidence that's going to have to surface to justify that.
Fair enough. You've spoken about the need for short-term amnesty to encourage insiders, from the actual UAP programs, the legacy programs, to come forward without fear of prosecution for NDAs or related crimes. Do you believe this could reveal evidence of human trafficking or financial misconduct tied to these programs? And how would you structure such protections?
Yeah, it could be a real possibility. That has been a narrative that that this narrative that is kind of common within. It's part of the zeitgeist.
Yes,
that you have a form of child trafficking of children that have some kind of ability. That is, but I'm not. So what we don't want to do is create a scenario where you have someone that really was a human trafficker that had nothing to do with this topic coming forward just so they can get immunity on some of the things that they were doing. So, that's why I'm leaving it up to, in my bill, the UAP Disclosure Act, we're leaving that decision up to the discretion of the board that's being created. So they would determine people that are coming forward if what level of amnesty that they would be willing to give them in order to get the information from them.
Okay. Very, very interesting. I have and again, the child trafficking thing, and again, it's really dark. And I think, again, we have to be not only do we have to be humble and okay with being wrong, but we have to be okay that if this gets a little dark, I would be surprised if it didn't. We have to be willing to go there.
Sadly, it's there's real evidence of child trafficking that's happened, and some of which is related to the sex industry, and some of it's related to organ harvestings. Sadly, it's just really it's tragic that in today's world, in today's modern society that this kind of evil still exists. But yeah, that's one of the most disturbing things. In fact, that the movie that recently came out, Sound of Freedom, is one of the most heart-wrenching movies to watch that kind of covers this topic.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy. It is. It's part of my language. But it makes me sick, but it makes me motivated.
And sadly, there was a lot that was related to having an open border over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of children that were being trafficked across that border. And there are a lot of children that we admitted, like that we, and I say Alejandro Mayorkas, admittedly lost in the process. So we have, I think it was somewhere around 80,000 children that they could not account for. Not to say that they all ended up in the sex trade or organ harvesting, but that create, when you have that much confusion and that much happening, it's pretty, that creates the environment for some of these evil people to operate.
So we need to be careful with Amnesty. We do. We need to be careful.
Yeah.
But you know, that it's going to be something. I've always said that, you know, even since 2017 and when Lou came forward, I always did say that, you know, we were going to have to meet halfway. Like we can't just be like, we're going to put you all in prison, but tell us what you know about the programs. Like we're going to have to meet them halfway, but they also need to be able to prove to us that they were involved in said program. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's fair enough. Fair enough. You know, you played a video in the recent hearing about, it was the Hellfire missile, and it bounced off of some sort of orb craft looking thing.
Yeah.
You were given that video what, hours before the hearing, and you know, have you seen things? You know, have you seen other things like that would really make a dent in the community if showed, or dent in the population?
I haven't yet seen any new videos. We have as I mentioned before, we have a list of videos that we're seeking and we're requesting, but I haven't had my eyes on anything since that.
That one was interesting. You know, what do you see in that video?
I don't, you know, honestly, I can't really, I can't ascertain exactly what it is that that video is revealing. I mean, and I haven't gotten a clear answer as well. So the fact that there isn't really anybody coming public with a clear answer as to what it is, it kind of leads to the mystery. It continues the mystery about what was happening in that video. So.
Well, there's other footage.
I've heard like what people think it is, what it's probably, but they also have no definitive proof of of that as well. So, I just can't.
Yeah.
Also, what I was hoping to happen from that, you know, I very much anticipated this could be a moment where I, you know, kind of what happened with Lou Elizondo with the photo that of the agricultural rings or circles, right? I think Lou did that in an attitude of trying to be transparent. But when you do that, you're taking a risk. When the alternative is to sit on it and fully vet it and then be confident about what you're getting ready to release with 100% certainty. The problem is I think that's why we have the problem that we have today. We have an attitude of that where people are not releasing things. And my position was, look, if I sit on this, I'm never going to find an answer here, because this video was not I don't have the capabilities of using, I don't have the technology to evaluate whether it's an AI video or what it is. And at the end of the day, I didn't claim that it was something more than what it is. I just simply said, this is the kind of stuff that as an elected official, I'm getting. People are dropping files anonymously to some of us members of Congress. And so rather than sit on it, I chose to release it and let the public decide what the video is about. And so I thought it was pretty benign, but
I honestly, I thought that the last hearing that you guys held was probably, and I'm not saying this to like stroke anyone's ego or, you know, do anything like that. I really did think, because I was at the others. This one I watched at home, and it was like, it was the most electrifying hearing, I thought, I in my opinion. I think it was the one that, you know, I know David Grusch made a huge splash with his, but this hearing, I think with the topic, you know, slowly destigmatizing and some of that stigma shedding away, the Dylan Borland's, the George Knapp, Chief Wiggins. I thought, you know, Chief Wiggins, there was a lot of things that, you know, he's an active duty member of the Navy. So for them to let that happen, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a great hearing. And I thought that some of their firsthand encounters were pretty remarkable. And these are highly respected individuals. So sadly, I wish that they had taken their camera phone out and filmed what they saw. But right now we're just kind of left with their narrative. Right. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, I don't doubt what they're saying that they believe they saw. And I think that they saw things that they believe, you know, was either, I think we had in that hearing alone, you had a rectangular shaped object. You had the triangle shaped UAP as well. And then you had the glowing orbs that were described in that hearing. So all touched
everything.
Yeah, all three of those witnesses really kind of had different experiences, and I thought that they were honest. I just don't know that what they saw is exactly what they think they saw.
Oh,
without kind of, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion without seeing it myself or having.
Oh, of course, yeah, and that's why I have the respect that I do for you, is because you're willing to talk to anyone, but you're not going to, you know, quote unquote, jump into a camp, right? Yeah. That's just not who you are. And again, I really, really respect that. See, look, StreamYard changed my camera. Just for the record, we talked about this before the show, where it changes your equipment halfway through
on the fly.
On the fly without you knowing.
Yeah. I was in it. I had my audio source change on the fly in the last StreamYard that I did. So
yeah, with Pavel. Pavel's a good guy.
Hopefully the people at StreamYard are paying attention and they'll have a bug fix.
Yeah, it's a member of Congress, guys. Come on. And by the way, I wasn't going to bring this up, but I never talked to you about this. You know that our last episode, the one that we did, our last, it got deleted from YouTube for some reason. I did not delete it. It got deleted from YouTube. So let me say that again. Someone asked me for a copy of it. And I went, what do you mean? Why do you need a copy of it? And they were like, it's not on your page anymore. It's on the audio podcast, but they were like, we want the video. And I was like, it's on YouTube. And I went back, I start looking. I'm like, wait, what the hell? Where is the video? And I swear it was deleted. I inquired. There was no, I emailed YouTube, no response back. There was no indication that I had ever deleted it or that there was ever any copyrighted material used that would have gotten it taken down, because they communicate that with you. Nothing. It was just gone. It was very, very weird. But anyway, as we round out, you know, because I think, you know, your time is of course super valuable. I'm super thankful to you every time you come on the show, and we have something planned for in person. We won't talk about that yet, but something coming up that I think will be really make a splash, because I think 2026 is going to be a really good year for UFOs, and the topic in general. So rounding things out, what was something in 2025 that you encountered in the UFO topic that had you step back a little bit and say, oh shit, this is real? Like there's some, well, it's maybe this is real. Like there's a real active covering up or distancing or whatever you want to call it. There's something there. There is a there. And maybe I got a little too close. Was there ever a moment like that for you in 2025?
I would say the closest thing, I'll say for me, 2025 was there was some high points, there were some low points. There was some points in which I would say to my staff, I'm like, this whole thing is total BS. I'm at kind of my wit's end and kind of coming to the conclusion that this is all total, complete, fiction. And because we, if you're in my situation and you just keep trying to get to the facts and try to get to some kind of physical, tangible evidence, and you keep getting shut down left and right, or you end up at a dead end, it gets frustrating. And so there's been some of those low points. There's been moments where I walked out of a briefing. Like I'll admit, like the meeting that I had with Anna and David Grusch in the skiff was one of the most, I walked out of that thinking that there's some, he at least has a tremendous amount of knowledge about the topic, more than I could possibly remember. And the sad part about when you go into these skiffs is that you can't take any notes. You can't take any notes with you. It's really, you have to have almost like a way in which you try to memorize everything that's said, because it's very difficult. And you walk out and there's, especially if it's a long conversation, there's a lot said and you're going to forget a lot. So, but some of the conversations I've had with Grusch indicate to me that at the very minimum, he is absolutely, he knows his stuff for sure.
Interesting. I told you I was going to ask a question that was going to be a little bit uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable for me because just because the Secrets Task Force, I believe you did leave one thing out, and that was 9/11.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Have you ever heard, now going back to the Eric Hecker story, directed energy weapons and stuff like that, have you ever heard of Dr. Judy Wood?
I've not.
I would implore you to look into her work about potentially, now, again, I say this, I want to put as much, it's so hard to talk about with you. I take this without too much like conspiracy mind, but there is this idea that when you watch the towers fall, a lot of people have talked about, where did the rubble go? Where did the rubble go? How did this building get incinerated to the point where it dustified? We know that with work like that was, in the Reagan era with the Star Wars initiative. If you want to believe Eric Hecker and what is down at the South Pole, then there's this other idea of Project Bluebeam in the UFO community. People have said it's already happened. It happened on 9/11. Do you think that there's any possibility that what we saw on those TV screens that day could have been not right?
I don't, without having some kind of evidence. Again, I'm probably going to stay away from that. For anything, there's a lot of people that died, a lot of family members that
3,000 people, yeah,
that are probably still recovering from the loss of their family member or their loved one. And I think I'd have to be really cautious about
I understand
looking into something like that without having some kind of evidence. I've talked to Anna about why 9/11 is a subject, and I think that what we're evaluating more than anything is was the information available that could have stopped this? And I think that there's often, sometimes sadly there's a cover up in order to cover your rear, right? So
yeah,
I think that some of our intelligence agencies may have been trying to cover for their lack of, or the lack of the
communication.
ability to catch this. And so
Well, it's not that they were. It's not that they didn't catch it. It's that they weren't willing to pass the evidence along and communicate with the other intelligence apparatuses. I mean, that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me, right?
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to be the pinnacle of the pinnacle of intelligence, and I think people are going increasingly aware that something bad, whatever it was, I don't think I don't think the official narrative is 100% solid, and I think maybe we can agree on that. There's something that there's something wrong with the official narrative and how it was presented.
Yeah, I think that there's no way that everything that was said is 100% accurate, but I also say it's probably 99% accurate to what happened. And so, but there may be some outliers, there may be some things that we got wrong. But I would say what we need to be investigating in the committee is definitely the communication errors that occurred, whatever our technology was that didn't catch this, or our human intel efforts that failed us here. And then if there was a cover up, if the federal government, or like whether it was the CIA or the FBI, specifically hid documents that indicated that they failed, that's something that I think needs to come to light. I think, and then at the same time, we need to be open to if there's people that we need to talk to and look at, and while we're exploring the topic, I'm open to looking into stuff.
Okay. Well, I listen, I would look at Dr. Judy Wood's work. I really would. Because I think it can inform you on multiple things. And again, even if it's just a surface level, it is what it is. I can only tell you, and then you do with it what you think is viable. So, listen, I every time I talk to you, I have such a good time. I think you're one of the most relatable members of Congress, if not the most relatable, in some aspects. I really commend the work that you've been doing. I commend your ability to discern the signal and the noise. And I think if more people were like you in Congress, there would be nothing that we couldn't do. I want to ask you one last thing. The community, the community as a whole, how did something that really affected us this year was the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk, because UFOs, yeah, it's my main thing, but I also there are other things that when they happen, like these wars in the Middle East, like these wars in Ukraine, it's hard to push the UFO topic in government when things like this are happening. So, when Charlie Kirk gets assassinated, that was a blow for the right. And since then, there's been a lot of infighting, and it parallels, for me, it's a parallel to the UFO community and the infighting over there. Do you see similarities in that sense?
I think that's an interesting observation, and yeah, it's really sad and disgusting. Some of the, I think people are capitalizing on his death, and the fact that there are people that are gaining followers and traffic on their social media accounts by saying outlandish and unproven things is I think there's a special place in hell for some of the stuff that's been said and for those people. So I think it's disgusting, particularly clearly it's harmful to his family and his widow. And so I think if anybody is, that people ought to treat the whole, the death of anyone, whether it was the people that died on 9/11 or Charlie Kirk, we have to be really careful about having conversations about these things without having any kind of facts or evidence. And I think we need to be really careful about the fact that you're really besmirching someone's memory and their legacy. And for what? You better have a pretty damn good reason why.
Absolutely. And I think I wasn't exactly like a super fan of Charlie's, but I really loved the way he was able to bring people together to discuss, to openly discuss, because in a world that seems to be as connected as possible, we're also as isolated as possible. It's so weird how it's become like that, but sadly it has. The internet, it gives people a way to connect with people and, socialize and kind of touch on those same receptors, but all while you're sitting in the basement or in the studio or in the living room. It's weird in that sense. And it's also given way to a lot of things that, like I said, in the UFO community, the people that the armchair experts, the people that capitalize on the drama and the nothing that's actually going to move the needle forward.
Right.
They're focusing on the drama aspects because they know that's what gets the clicks. If it bleeds, it leads. And with Charlie, unfortunately, they took that to a whole nother level.
Right. And sadly, they're still doing that. So
yeah. Did you hear about this? Like in Minecraft, there was like this place they built. Apparently in Minecraft, I don't understand Minecraft. I think it should be shut down because of the people looking for little kids on that site or on that game. Yeah, that look into that. That is crazy. But Minecraft and all these games, predators it's a huge fucking problem, Representative. It's a huge problem. Sean Ryan had this, oh God, I can't remember his name. He's a white hat. He used to be a hacker, like a real hacker. And now he's like a white hat hacker, and he catches predators. And the number one place is Minecraft, apparently.
Really?
And Roblox, but Minecraft too. Roblox, all those games. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me. But in these,
I think parents I think parents should turn off all of that, like networking chat, especially to people that are unknown.
Well, you can buy Roblox. Roblox was because they make us, if you can buy skins in the game apparently for your character. One of the skins was a white shirt that had freedom on it with blood everywhere. It was the Charlie. Yes, Roblox. That shirt is still being sold on Roblox so people can go to the assassination and take part in it or just be an observer. But they built the whole world out, and then they're selling the T-shirts on there. So then they're taking a cut of it. They're taking 30% of that. And like it's fucking insanity. The absolute disassociation from reality that it's happening. And we're running. We are running when we should be crawling with this whole AI thing. I'm sorry, but yeah, sorry, I got a little heated there. I'm sorry about that. It really aggravates. I don't even have kids, and that aggravates me. So thank you for what you're doing. What's
Thank
next for Eric Burlison and the topic of UFOs?
Yeah, so we will be hopefully we'll have that whistleblower come forward.
Well, if you're not going to have hearings, how is he going to, is it going to be?
We're going to have a meeting with him first. We've got a handful of people that we're going to be sending letters to. This is all based on previous people that have come up in hearings or other conversations. And these individuals have not been willing, they have not voluntarily come forward and so we're going to be sending letters requesting that they meet with the committee. And then we're also looking to get some of these files and documents that have been mentioned.
That's someone said, we need a Burlison in Canada. Yes, you guys do. Yeah, you do.
My wife's family's from Canada. So
I've
been in Ontario, London, Ontario, Sarnia. So if you're from that area, that's
interesting.
I've been there.
Actually, there was one last thing. I'm sorry. I do apologize. The files because I've been working with Gene on something, and I won't go into that part of it. I could talk to you about it off air because we only have a limited time, but the files that Knapp entered into congressional record about what he brought back from the Soviet Union, or formerly the Soviet Union and Russia. Is there anything can you describe what he gave you? Is there any NDAs prohibiting you from that, or
is that not made public? If it's not made public, we can clearly make that public.
Please, if you could make that public, because it's not.
Yeah. And okay. Well, wow. I'll be happy to try to scan that in, and unless somebody stops me or for some reason, I'll be happy to make that public.
Well, like I said, Gene is a veteran, and I don't want to give you the whole thing, but his father-in-law was the Soviet era, like it's Latvia, what was formerly the Soviet Union. Very patriotic guy, father-in-law, and Gene is married to obviously his daughter. He died, but in the inheritance, they got this like journal, this journal, and it was all about reverse engineering UFOs, like not like writing like a book. Like it's not a book. It's a mathematical, scientific. Maybe I can send it to you. It's wild. So that's why I ask, because there's a lot of ties there, especially with the nuclear topic as well. But so. What could you say about the documents? I mean, what was brought back by Knapp?
So a lot of it was some reports of that they uncovered some craft and their research and kind of trying to reverse engineer that craft. And I think one of the narratives was that there was a part of the craft that they were able to basically convert into some weapon, and for at least one period of time, we're able to activate it and utilize that weapon. So that's part of the description. But I believe the way it's described, it was used, and then it was never capable to be used again. But that's part of this narrative. I'll try to get that released if it isn't already.
Please.
I would have thought that I would have thought that the Oversight Committee would have put it up on the in our hearing notes.
I haven't found it, so I would definitely appreciate that. And I know others that would as well. So Eric, till our next discussion, my friend, you are one of the most amazing members of Congress, and I can't wait to see what you do next. I truly can't. So thank you so much for always taking time and meeting with me and doing these shows.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and your family. I'll be in touch, of course, about what we talked about that in-person thing and making that a reality. So, are you guys are bringing the, what's his name? Walls in, right? Tim Walls? That's what I heard.
I haven't heard that, but that's it could
Nancy
happen.
Mace put a tweet out today that said, if you have any questions that you want me to ask Tim Walls in the hearing, submit them below. So I assumed that you knew that I guess they're bringing him in.
I think she wanted to have I think she wants to focus in on the nuclear topic, on the connection. And so this might be, I haven't heard the details of what she's putting together, but.
Well, no. This is about, okay. Interesting. Cause I brought Bob Salas to her office, and that was at the other hearing. But I meant about the fraud in Minnesota, Tim Walls.
Okay.
Bringing him in.
I think that I'm sorry.
Ooh, you just dropped a little exclusive.
Yeah, no, I was thinking of, I thought you were talking about Mike Walls.
I know, I jump everywhere. I'm crazy.
And so, no, okay. So when it comes to Tim Walz, yes, really I'm pretty sure that the overarching oversight committee and Chairman Comer are probably going to be, I would be, it's for sure that we're going to be bringing him in for questions.
That's, I cannot
wait. We'll probably bring in the whistleblowers in Minnesota as well. And then kind of work our way towards Tim.
Amazing. I can't wait. So my friend, anything to say? What would be your number one piece? If someone asked you, what's your number one piece of advice that you could give to people in the UFO community, going forward and leaving 2025 behind, and some of that stuff? What would be your piece of advice to anyone entering the subject?
I would say be respectful of some, and a lot of people are really quick to just jump all over people if you make a statement or a misstatement. Try to give the community needs to give people a little bit of grace, and I say that because they're throughout this experience maybe it's because people are so passionate. I've never been involved in a topic that has got such little grace in what's said. And there's to the point where you really have to parse your words, because you realize that anything that you say is could be twisted or could be questioned. And so I would say the community just needs to let up a little bit and the other thing is take a step back, because as I said earlier at the beginning of this interview, is that your perspective may be wrong, and you need to be prepared for that. So try to have the same attitude of a true investigator, where you're willing to kind of accept the fact that some of your preconceived notions might not be provable, or they may not have been proven. So be ready to change that. And so
absolutely
have the perspective of a scientist who's actually trying to get the truth.
Yeah. And when, actually, no, I'm not going to say that. I don't want to offend anybody on the other side. But Rep. Burlison, keep doing what you're doing. We did get a last super chat question. I feel bad for not being able to ask it, but there's evidence about the scene of the first and second and third generations of black triangles in Kansas. I don't know what that is. Elaborate on the evidence he has seen of the first, second, and third generations of the black triangles seen and filmed in Kansas. Do you know what this means?
There's an individual that has brought forward some photos and a claim that these are third generation or second generation of reverse engineered craft. I'm I haven't been able to verify that this is that anything that has been said is true. So in fact, I don't like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of questioning about the motivation that's coming from that perspective.
Okay, I think I think Tim Phillips. I asked him. I think this is all the same person. So because I had Tim Phillips of Arrow on, and yeah. Anyway, Mr. Burlison, representative, to you and your family, nothing but the best. I cannot wait to see what you guys have. I'd be very interested in, let me know if that whistleblower does come forward, because, I'll fly down to DC to be a part of whatever, public forum that takes. And we'll chat. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And to everyone else out there, please like, share, subscribe. It's the best way you can help support the channel and the podcast. If you're listening on one of our amazing platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and a review. Also, that's like liking and sharing on YouTube. And if you want to become an asset, get early access, ad-free episodes, and priority questions when the shows are live. I'll see you on the other side. Stay humble, stay kind, stay vigilant.